Hey guys, Jake Carlson here, host of the Modern Leadership Podcast. Are you ready to focus on amplifying your leadership superpowers? Let's go. Good morning, my friends and fellow elite achievers. Welcome to Modern Leadership, the podcast where each week we sit down with authors, entrepreneurs, and leaders to explore their journey, diving into the ups, their downs, and ultimately the lessons they learned along the way. Our goal? To show that everything is figure-outable. Today's guest is Neill Davis. Matt is an author, a speaker, and, wait for it, an attorney. He owns and manages Davis Law, PLLC, a firm dedicated to helping business owners make smart business decisions. Davis Law has made the Law Firm 500 3 times as one of the fastest growing law firms in the United States, and his newest book, The Art of Preventing Stupid, How to Build a Stronger Business Strategy Through Better Risk Management. Matt, it's so great to have you on the podcast. How are you today?
Hey, I'm excited. I'm sitting here in my treetop office, ready to talk some shop, ready to talk about leadership, and let's make a difference in some people's lives. How about that?
It sounds great. I know you live in Oklahoma, and as you talk about sitting in your treetop office, all I can imagine is this like beautiful tree house with this office up at top, and I'm sitting over here going, I need to get me one of those.
It's kind of cool. We've got a 1915 house, and I'm up on the second floor, and I got all these sycamores around me. I got windows on 3 sides of me, and it's I like it. So it's cool. Hey, I love that line, figure-outable, because, and I just want to jump into one thing we're going to talk about today, I think, which is ignorance, because ignorance is curable. Amen?
Yeah, amen. Well, you know, that term, I explained it a couple of episodes back. I switched my intro and my outro to make sure that I kept that figure-outable because my kids roll their eyes every time I start talking about everything being figure-outable. I don't want to hear you can't do it. Everything is figure-outable.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, one of our the first core value of our law firm is carry the message to Garcia. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, but I don't think our listeners are. And so you mind giving us a little background of this story about the message to Garcia?
Yeah, Message to Garcia was a little syndicated piece. It's about 3 pages long, and it came out in 1898. And it's become a just leadership classic to the extent that our friends at the United States Marine Corps, until recently, had it as required reading for everybody who joins. And the story is about President McKinley, who needed to get a message to General Garcia in Cuba during the Spanish-American War. And his aides said, well, you know, who's going to get it there? That's going to be a tough job. And they said, well, give it to Rowan. He's going to get it there. And the point is, he's not going to get on the boat in D.C., or I guess it'd be Alexandria, and then make it to, I guess, Charleston and go, oh, well, there's not a boat going to Havana. You know, at that point, he's going to go, well, okay, I'll take the train down to Savannah or Jacksonville, and I'm going to figure out some way to do it. And that's just one of the absolute critical things that leaders have to do. And frankly, as attorneys, that's what we want all of our attorneys and everybody on our team to do, is carry the message to Garcia, figure out how to get things. And by the way, I'm so mean, I have 5 kids, and when my kids start whining, I look at them and they go, oh, okay, yeah, Dad, we're going to carry the message to Garcia.
That's your fatherly mantra that they live by. And one of the things I love about this story about the message to Garcia is when McKinley hands the note to Rowan, he doesn't say, well, how do you want me to do it? Or what's my budget? Or do you care if I take horses or people with me? He doesn't ask any questions. He takes the letter and he does what he was asked to do. And I think that's why it's so valuable in your law firm and as business leaders throughout the world listening to this podcast. You want team members that are going to go out and get done what you ask them to do. And if you're not quite in that leadership chair, you need to be that employee, that person, that aide that will just go and get the job done, figure out the solution.
Yeah, and we hire and fire based on it. I mean, if somebody comes on our team and they're not carrying the message to Garcia, you're gone, because those are the people that always have jobs in the world, because those are the ones that get things done. They don't sit around and make excuses. And that's what our clients expect out of us. They want us to figure out how to take care of their problems with their time, money, or reputation, to borrow a line from my friend Chris Anderson.
Yeah, we talk about, millennials nowadays and the employment challenges that they have and some of the challenges that leaders trying to lead millennials have. And the truth of the matter is there are those out there, great individuals on our teams surrounding us. We just need to find the right team members, and it doesn't matter what generation they are. We need to find those that are committed to getting the job done and really leaning in and doing what needs to be done.
It's a little bit harder with millennials. It just is. And we can go down the litany of reasons why people might think so. But that's been my experience, sadly. And it may be more fair note. It may be a function of maturity with them, because as they get older, they may do it. I mean, I think you and I would both concede the point that we're a little more on top of it now that I'm 50. How old are you? 40? 41?
41.
Yeah, so there.
Well, yeah, and the truth of the matter is when you look at it, I'm at Gen X, right? And Gen X, 40 years ago, we were saying the same thing about this Generation X. All they want to do is wear bell bottoms and go off to India and smoke pot, right? I mean, that's all they want to do. And now we're looking at them and saying, millennials, why can't you be more like that? The truth of the matter is that we all go through a maturation process, and part of it is to take on these responsibilities within our businesses, leadership opportunities within our companies, to show that we're a team player, to show that we can follow direction, and to show that we really are invested in the outcome of our business.
Yeah. And, I love, by the way, that your podcast is all about leadership, because, I know you and I both have a history in the Scouts. And when I started in business, I thought leadership was, kind of this concept that we talked about when, we were in the Scout troop and maybe wanted to be senior patrol leader or whatever. But my friend Henry Harlow, first book he had me read when he was my business coach was John Maxwell's leadership books. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what's he doing? But then it really dawned on me just the criticalness of being a leader in your business. And it's not just some corny kid stuff. And by the way, I took your leadership test, which I thought was fantastic. And, you had in there Jim Collins' Great by Choice, of which book you would relate to, was on one of the choices. Mm-hmm. And that whole book, which, by the way, I think for small businesses is even better than Good to Great.
Amen.
Good to Great's a good roadmap. But I pulled it out because I just did a podcast of my own today about catastrophes, which is something I specialize in dealing with. But he talks about leadership on that. I mean, the whole book is about leadership and 10X leadership. And that's what's going to make the difference in your company getting to where you want to go or not.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And this is a great segue into your writing, which is how do we prevent stupid? So tell me how you came up with this idea, why it was needed now.
The preventing stupid part kind of came from another one of my business coaches named R. John Robbins, How to Manage a Small Law Firm. Great guy, taught me enormous things about how to run my law firm. But I just hate watching people screw up their lives by making stupid mistakes. It just pisses me off to no end. And I ran a general practice law firm in my hometown, which is an overgrown prairie town. I had the great privilege of doing that for 20 years. And then we just quit everything except for business law. And I had kind of an epiphany moment when one of my clients had a huge accident. And I had just 6 months previously, by chance, I'd intervened and got them to up their insurance level to, I believe it was $11 million, okay? Mm-hmm. And we had a fatality accident. The president of the company was undergoing thoracic surgery. He didn't even know about the accident for a week because I came in, took over, got it under control, right? Mm-hmm. And it was a accident that would have bankrupted their company. And it still kind of chokes me up because I didn't catch that before. I mean, what was so horrible is we weren't in front of their problems. And after that, I just like, we've got to figure out a way to get in front of people's problems and help them, because, if we're going to be attorneys and counselors at law, that's what we need to do. And I just started beating the issue of how do you get ahead of problems? Like a piñata, just bang, bang, bang. And I'm a big believer in that. Ralph Emerson said something to the effect that once you make a decision, the universe conspires to help you.
Yeah.
You might say the Lord helps those that help themselves, but let's figure out how we get in front of people's problems. And I figured out that all of our problems come from one of three sources: failure to prepare for catastrophes, failure to properly educate ourselves. I call that ignorance. You call it figure-outable, right? Mm-hmm. And then ineptitude, which means not doing the things we know that we need to do and running our systems properly and making sure things run right. And once I had that, I was able to go, okay, that's really pretty interesting. Now, some of that came from Atul Gawande's Checklist Manifesto.
Yes, which I actually just read a couple of months ago, and it's a tremendous book. It's very academic, but it's interesting. He's a medical doctor that basically looks at mistakes that happen within the medical industry, particularly within like overworked and understaffed ERs and trauma units. And it's a very fascinating look at high educated people, high functioning leaders that make mistakes because of not following systems, not following processes within their business. It's a very fascinating book.
For me, it was a very seminal book in thinking through things. And then I remember I was flying back from a conference in Miami, and I had one of those great tools of business with me, which was a cocktail napkin, which probably means I was having a drink, right?
It's time to start a startup. Cocktail napkins galore.
Yeah, and I had just heard my friend Chris Anderson, who's a great buddy of mine. He was in my business coaching group, and we'd studied under the same professor at Cornell, and he'd talked about the 7 working parts of the business. And you know how those commercials where they cram peanut butter and chocolate together and go, oh, this is a Reese's peanut butter cup?
Yeah.
It was kind of one of those moments. And I go, let's cram the 7 working parts of the business together with the 3 sources of failure. And then let's come up with a 21-point analysis where we can look at businesses in a systematic, efficient way and go, this is where all your problems come from.
Yeah, so let's, for the listeners, step back a little bit and let them know what these 7 working parts of the business are. So the first one is marketing.
No. First one is the owner. That's you. That's your playground, right?
It starts with you.
Starts with you because everything revolves around you as the owner. In a bigger company, you might toss in management, and then you've got personnel. That's who does the work. And then you've got the production. That's the work that gets done, right? And then you've got the plant that you do it in, and then you've got the metrics, which is how you measure it and how you make it work. And by work, I mean make sure it's paying and paying efficiently. And then you got marketing, and then you got sales. And every business the world around since the Sumerians has worked on that little rhythm. And we think that all the businesses we have are something novel, something special. Guess what? They're not. It's the same thing over and over and over again. And because of that, we can analyze it and we can look at it in a way that we're going, okay, how do we protect this? And you and I are both lawyers, and a lot of entrepreneurs, they think grow, improve, protect. And from a legal perspective, from a general counsel perspective, I look at things of protect, improve, and then grow.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of reverse engineering.
Well, it's an interesting way to look at it. You know, as lawyers, we approach problems from the protection standpoint. And that's why it's interesting to have different perspectives, either on your board or around you in leadership. Because where you and I, Matt, we're going to get into the protective. We do need those around us that are going to help us to grow, to think outside the box a little bit, and also to create the system, the process that's going to empower that growth.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the messages of our firm is law can come either in a reactive way, which is how people traditionally consume legal services, meaning they wait until they have a problem, or it can come in a proactive way. Let's go back to this Jim Collins work of Great by Choice, and he talks about 10x leadership, and he's got 4 components of that: fanatic discipline, ambition. Ambition's easy, right? Empirical creativity, and productive paranoia. And I like to call productive paranoia, not to mince words, but I like to look at it as proactive prevention. But that's just one of the 4 critical aspects of being a great leader. He talks in there about how Bill Gates was constantly worried, just constantly paranoid about what could go wrong to Microsoft. And it's one of the things that made Microsoft super successful. And businesses really lack that skill, particularly in the productive part. And the space we occupy and the space we're going to own is we help companies be productively paranoid, particularly with our general counsel program. We call it Custom Legal Department Program. And that's what the Art of Preventing Stupid is about teaching companies how to think that way. And yeah, it has to do with legal things, but it also has to do with financial things, has to do with personnel things, and so on.
Yeah, it has to do with really everything within the business. And, as we talk about Jim Collins, we talk about Bill Gates, one of the things about practicing this productive paranoia is this idea that everybody is going to be coming after you and you can't become complacent. So we've got 2 types of businesses. We have businesses that fail, as we know the statistic, right? 2/3 of all businesses fail within a decade. But we also have businesses that grow and do well, but then they plateau. And the reason they plateau is because the owners, the directors, the leaders become complacent. They rest on their laurels and they just like to ride the wave as opposed to getting in there and really being aggressive. And so I think that's one of the things that I love about your book and the title, Preventing. Preventing is an action word. As we talked about being proactive as opposed to reactive, preventing is about thinking ahead, strategizing, knowing what's coming down the pike so that you're prepared for it, and avoiding some of the challenges that these business owners whose businesses fail or plateau experience.
Yeah, and it's all about asking the right 21 questions to accomplish that. Because if you ask the right questions, then you can get to the right answers. And if you're not asking the right questions, you're never going to get there.
And you're talking to a coach at heart here, and questions are the basis of coaching. I mean, coaching to me is not me giving you the answer. It's me helping you discover the answer for yourself. Why? Because if I tell you, I have to combat your natural biases, your natural opposition to changing, whereas if I can help you realize the solution for yourself, you're naturally invested in it. You want it to succeed because you thought of it. And that's what coaching is all about. It's asking the right questions to elicit within you the desire to move to the next level.
Yeah, and that's what we do with our general counsel program. We become part of the management team and we prod our clients. I mean, there's an element of business coach in it. And we prod our clients to start asking these right questions, not only within the legal realm, but within the HR, again, within the finance, within the ops realm of their business. And we just had an event and the state director of commerce was there and he was giving me some grief. And he said, well, Davis's firm is the only firm I know that teaches people how to stay out of trouble, thus running him out of business. I said, it doesn't run me out of business because then what happens is my clients, then they keep growing. And as they're growing, they do, as my friend Kristen David says, new level, new devil. Because once the businesses are growing, there's always something to do. And that's the space we love to be in with our clients. We can't get all of them to let us work with them on a proactive basis, but that is our goal. And that's what we really market and try and get our clients to work with us on that basis, because we can make a huge difference in their lives. And our firm's why is building families' futures through smart business decisions.
Yeah.
You're a coach. You know how rewarding that is.
Yeah, and it's really the basis for everything. It's really what gets you up in the morning and keeps you going. Now, I wanted to ask you this question. Why should employees be forgiven of their ignorance, but owners not?
Oh, man. Well, we're the boss, right? Forgiven, we're all forgiven, but we need to hold ourselves to just a really higher standard. If an employee makes a mistake, and you're being kind of hard on me with this forgiven word.
Well, I think what we're trying to talk about here is, look, as the business owner being held to a higher standard, it's not all right for you to claim ignorance. Now, an employee who you pay for the hours that they come in and work, it's understandable that at times they're going to make mistakes. And it's not about being forgiven. It's about helping them develop and grow so that they don't make the same mistakes over and over again. But ignorance itself is something that the business owner must be conscious of and proactively avoiding any instances of ignorance within their business by surrounding themselves with the information, the education, and the people, the resources to make sure that they are making accurate decisions. There's a lot riding on the decisions the owner makes.
Absolutely. And then you have to be absolutely, again, to borrow a Collins term, rigorous analysis. You have to do that with the skill sets that you need on your team. You have to go find them. You have to get them on there. And so maybe that's the answer to your question. At the same time, everybody on my team knows when we have a question, and by that I mean when we know that we're ignorant about something, which I love Harvey McKay's book too, where he says, I can't believe how stupid I was just 2 weeks ago, right? And that guy's
right.
Fantastic. The resources at our fingertips due to Google, the internet, Yahoo, whichever one you want to use, absolutely insane. Do you remember when we were kids and you used to have to go do the Dewey Decimal System to find out anything? My gosh, the Boolean search has absolutely, totally changed our ability to access stuff. And, let alone go to Amazon. And for every problem, somebody's written a book of how to handle it. Go to Amazon, start searching around, find a book, go to Audible. And if you don't like to read, just learn. This day and age, it is almost unforgivable to not educate ourselves these days about what we need to know to get to where we want to be.
And one of the important things to recognize as a leader is you don't need to know everything and you don't need to be an expert in everything. But what you do need to know is what's pertinent to you today. And that's why this just-in-time JIT learning is so important. With Google now, instead of having to memorize everything, we just need to know how to go and get the answers. But remaining ignorant is no longer an option. It's unforgivable. It's a catastrophe waiting to happen. And Matt, this has been a great conversation, but alas, our time seems to be running down. And before we let you go, we got to jump over to our final section, Learning from Leaders. Are you ready?
I am ready. Let's go.
All right. Our first question then. The book currently on your bedside table or Kindle, what are you reading?
I am reading Conquer the Chaos by Clay Mask, who is the guy that started Infusionsoft.
And Infusionsoft, by the way, is a Arizona company. They are headquartered just down the street from me. An incredible company in the innovation that they've done. And how is the book?
It's pretty good. I'm just starting it, but I like the title. I like the idea because, I know a lot about chaos and weathered a lot of it.
And we're going to weather a lot more going forward. Now, you're in Oklahoma, so you know about tornadoes. You know about the chaos tornado that goes through all businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're in Enid, which somehow seems to always avoid tornadoes.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, I think I will. So that would seem to hit Oklahoma City. So.
All right. Our next question then is, and we know you just took the Leadership Superpower Assessment. What is your leadership superpower?
I am a confident leader. And as I thought about it, one reason I'm confident is because we use the art of preventing stupid to stay out of trouble. And that adds a lot of confidence to me. So, for instance, we've got the book just came out last week, and we're pleased to announce we were on one of the Amazon bestsellers list. And we didn't know anything about book marketing, but we went out and we figured out how to do it. And, our success is paying off. Our research is paying off. So I'm a confident leader, and that's a great analysis, by the way.
Well, thank you. And I love that confident leader. And confident leader isn't arrogant leader. It's confidence in knowing that you've taken the steps, the actions, put in place the opportunity to grow and succeed. So I love that. Our next question, your motivational quote, philosophy, or mantra, something that you live by.
W. Edwards Deming, a bad system will beat a good person every time.
Yeah, this is so important. And you and I both, Matt, are systems people. We're big processes people. It's how we leverage our growth by putting together systems. And I think you're absolutely right. A good system is invaluable within your business. I love that quote. Our final question, the book that you most often gift or refer to friends.
Oh, E-Myth. Absolutely, totally. E-Myth.
And this is the Michael Gerber book, E-Myth Revisited.
Yeah. For entrepreneurs who are startups, who are growing their business, absolutely life-changing. It changed my life.
Yeah, it's absolutely a terrific book.
It kind of leaves me speechless, as you noticed.
Yeah, I think it's had a tremendous impact, not just on yours and my careers and futures, but on a lot of readers. So I appreciate that share. Matt, before we let you go, how can we find out more about you? How can we connect and pick up a copy of The Art of Preventing Stupid?
The book's over at Amazon, and love it if you'd grab it. And then my website is theartofpreventingstupid.com, or you can just go to Matthew Neill Davis. And I know there's a whole bunch of ways to spell Neill, so I just bought all of them, so they'll all go to the same place.
Very cool. And we will link all of that up on the show notes so they can go to one place, click on there, find out more about you, pick up a copy of this book. Matt, thank you for coming on the Modern Leadership Podcast. It is so refreshing to talk to someone that is really proactively thinking through how to make business better. You are a true expert. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it, and best of luck.
All right, my friends, and what a fascinating conversation. You know me, I love talking about preventing, being proactive, really taking the time to understand what's going on, the problems that we're facing, and make sure that we have solutions ready. I love this conversation of leveraging our resources, leveraging proactive planning. Appreciate Matt coming on the episode. You know, we spent about 5, 10, 15 minutes before we hit record. We spent another 5, 10 after we hit pause on the recording, just catching up. We have so much in common, and I'm looking forward to being a guest on his podcast. So until next week, before I let you go, remember the show notes for this episode, jakeacarlson.com/ML134 will get you all the goodies and information that we talked about. And until next week, I want to wish you the very best of days, an even better life, and of course, everything is figure-outable. Thanks for listening to the Modern Leadership Podcast. You can find me on Facebook at Speaker Jake, on Twitter at Jake A. Carlson, and of course the website, jakeacarlson.com. See you there.